Good morning and welcome to Business Morning. Thank you for joining us. I'm Chimeze Obi Iwagu. Well, as President Muhammadu Buhari rounds up his visit to the United States, his meeting with the U.S. President Donald Trump has continued to make headlines. President Buhari met President Donald Trump in Washington on Monday, the first African leader to be received by Trump's White House administration. Now, issues bordering on securities, trade and economic development were discussed. Economic and policy analysts have been commenting on the outcome of his visit, and today on the show, I'm being joined by Mr. Muda Yusuf, the Director General of the Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry, a representative of the organized private sector, to air his views on the visit. Good morning, Mr. Yusuf. Thank you very much for joining us.
Good morning,
good to have you again.
It's a pleasure to be here.
So, the president is rounding up his visit to the United States. What's your general impression of this visit?
I think it's something that is very positive for Nigeria from the point of view of diplomacy. It's positive also from the point of view of security. And it's also positive in a way from the point of view of the economy and business. The visit put Nigeria, as it were, at the center stage of the world. And and some of the remarks, even by President Trump, is something that is also very positive for us in terms of marketing. Because each time we have this kind of opportunity, and that is what happens with other heads of government, you take advantage of it to advance your economic diplomacy. It's also, as it were, a marketing opportunity. And I think we should learn to do more of that. Because a good marketer, when you go out there, even if your product has shortcomings, you play down the shortcomings of the product, and you talk more about the value, the benefits, the quality of the product. So I think we have to do a lot more about that. But generally, it's something that is positive. It has put us in some positive light, and it's something that also detracts from the initial comments of President Trump himself, when he talk about shithole countries and all of that, you know.
But none of those were mentioned anyway.
Yes. So the way he came out, I mean, the kind of respect he also showed towards our president, towards Nigeria and all of that, I think it's something that is very positive, you know. And the U.S. economy is the largest economy. I mean, we are talking of an economy that is $20 trillion. So having very good bilateral relationship with such a country, given its strength militarily and all of that, I think it's also good for us.
So what are the prospects for improved trade and investment?
Well, the prospects are good, at least in terms of access. Because, of course, when you compare the volume of trade that takes place in the United States with the volume of trade here, the U.S. trade volume is about 4.5 to 5 trillion US dollars. That is trade. Trade between us and the United States is just about 8 billion US dollars. So in terms of the materiality of our own trade content with the United States, it's not something that is really big. Because when you compare about 8 billion or 9 billion US dollars to 4.5 trillion trade, so it's not, we are not so strategic to US in terms of trade. But President Trump also being a businessman, because he's bringing his business mindset into governance. Every relationship counts. And what matters in every relationship is what America can get from it.
That's that protectionism thing that they are talking about.
Exactly.
That is actually a kind of not too good for the global economy, the growth of the global economy.
Yeah, but it's all around this philosophy of America first. You know, that is it. And to some extent, we also practice that. We are also largely protectionist. So within that space, I mean, during some of the remarks he made, he talked about the $1 billion US aid that they have given to Nigeria, and in a way was trying to say there must be something to show for it. You know, he also raised concerns about some of our trade policies, that there are trade barriers that are affecting exports of United States goods to Nigeria, and that our own president should look at how Nigeria can bring down those trade barriers. And it's interesting because United States is becoming increasingly protectionist.
Exactly. Do you think that perhaps could be the maybe they are trying to find an alternative to China with the trade war? You know.
Well, of course, those things could be, but whether Nigeria can be that alternative or not, it's a different thing. I've told you the volume of trade anyway.
Yeah.
So, but it's something that is instructive, because each time he speaks, he talks business, even as a president.
So if
he's looking for opportunities
if
for
he
United
talks
States.
so much about barrier, why do you want us to, you know, break our own barrier?
Well, I mean, the man is talking about American first. So he will speak from the point of view of American interest. You know, our president did not respond specifically to that anyway. And I imagine that the concern is more around the areas of exports of wheat, grains from United States to Nigeria. Just as I said, we are also very protectionist. We have seen some trade policies that has also hurt exports from the United States in terms of the high import duty, the levies. At the time, you have issues with the 41 items. All these things had very significant effects on trade relations between Nigeria and many countries, and one of which I think is also the